Think about that. We were doing $14.7 million in revenue as a 26-year-old kid, young adult. I consider myself to be a kid at that time. And I was only paying myself $50,000. No distributions. I had company truck, fuel, you name it. So I had some little perks there. But to be disciplined enough to not splurge and take care of my personal finances and reinvest all those dollars right back into the organization, it allowed us to grow. It created more opportunity, more jobs.
Hello everyone, Sergio Tifford here, and welcome to another powerful episode of Cracking the Code, the podcast where we go deep into the mindsets, strategies, and systems behind some of the most inspiring business leaders today. Our guest today is a powerhouse in the home improvement industry and a CEO whose vision, grit, and leadership have built not one, but two successful companies. Carnie Fryfogle is the Chief Executive Officer of CR3 American Exteriors, which he founded in 2022, and also the CEO of CR3 American Exteriors, based in Pennsylvania since 2017. His leadership has helped scale these companies through a combination of strong branding, operational discipline, and a relentless focus on people and performance. Carnie, it's an honor to have you on the show today. All right, Carnie, it's a pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you for joining us. It's a lot of efforts to create what you have built with your two companies. So I don't think we ever had a guest that was in the construction field per se like you are. So I know a lot of our clients and our listeners that they do have teams and brokerages. They sometimes want to do, side gigs, and they want to dedicate a lot of their time to do construction because we know it's more profitable. So, you built two successful companies, led them through major growth. Let's rewind a little bit about that and what's the origins on your story and how you created C3. And I know after that you created another company. So can you bring us some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, first and foremost, I appreciate you and the team having me on the podcast. But yeah, just to give you a little bit of context, a little bit of background about how we got to where we did today. I grew up in a construction family. My great grandfather, father, all those guys built and developed houses and communities. So naturally, I grew up in construction. I always joke with everybody and tell them I didn't choose this life; it chose me. So at a very young age, had a tool belt on, was helping my father. That was a means for me to buy my first car and put fuel in it and everything else. And then naturally, as I got to the point where it was either get out of high school and go to college or go get a job and make real money, I decided that college was not something that I was interested in. So I decided to put a tool belt on and help my father build some custom homes. And it was a really dumb thing to do, but it was the smart thing to do at the time for me. So I strapped on a tool belt, and my philosophy there, Sergio, was I figured that I could go make 35, 40 grand a year by working versus spend 35 or 40 grand a year by going to college. So got heavily involved in the new construction and home remodeling space. And then in the fall of 2017, I just had like a light bulb moment where I knew I wanted a little bit more out of my life. And my father had done a great job of building a business, all referral based. But I just knew there was more there that I wanted. So in the fall of 2017, I decided to step away from what my father was doing and had built and go start my own thing, which was CR3 American Exteriors. So started the company with $2,500 and a wish and a prayer. I knew the industry, which gave me an advantage. And I knew how to actually do the work with my hands versus a lot of my competitors. They're just sales guys. They don't know a whole lot about the actual technical application of some of the products that we install. So 21-year-old kid in the fall of 2017 with $2,500 in my checking account, decided to go chase this dream. And then fast forward 4 years later, with the help of some really good team members, brought a partner on. We built that construction company up to just under 15 million in revenue in our first four years. We did 14.7 in our fourth full year in business. And then we just kind of had an epiphany and recognized that what we had done to get to that point was not going to be what we, that was not, the model was not equipped, and the way that we were doing it was not equipped to take us to this next growth phase that we were interested in tackling. So in the summer of 2022, we decided that we were going to take the construction company that we built and we were going to franchise it. So we
right. It's one of the things that you're doing a lot right now. You're franchising that, and it's a very smart move. And granted that when you started this in 2017, it wasn't as sexy as it is today, because I think there was something about construction in from 2010 to maybe 2020, it wasn't as sexy as it is right now. People were second guessing everything about construction, and now all of a sudden everyone wants to have a big construction company, everyone wants to have an HVAC company, a plumbing company. Now I know hedge funds are after construction companies in California, New York, and other areas. So you started when people were not believing in construction too much, I guess.
And to your point, that was one of the things that made us look at our model and say, wow, we did okay. I mean, 4 years to just under 15 million is pretty impressive, even in today's standards. But we recognized that other people were very interested in our space, and particularly people who had more money than us. And we knew that private equity, just because they started calling us, they were offering to buy the business.
Gosh, that was just going to be my next question. So if you had any calls from private equity, because I know they're doing that a lot, and they're promising big fat checks.
Yeah.
So
at the point, so we went on our 4-year sprint. We did just under 15 million. Private equity is beating down our door. They're calling, they're texting, they're emailing. My father has the same name as me, so they're leaving him voicemails on his personal cell, driving him nuts. And it was just a crazy, crazy time. But at the time, Sergio, I was only 26 years old. So when you have a $15 million company, you got private equity, and you have these people that are just so interested in acquiring your concept, it's exciting but scary at the same time. At 26 years old, unless that check was really, really big, I'd have to go get another job. I'd have to start another company. And why would I abandon that at just 4 years into the mission, right? So, but what we did recognize is that there was about to be some outside pressure that was not typical for our industry. And fast forward in 2024, roofing specifically was the number one most sought after business or industry by private equity in 2024. So we recognize that, we saw that coming. That's what led to the model shift, and that's what led for us to focus on franchising. And as I talked to you today, in the winter of 2025, we have just over 35 awarded territories, that some of which still need to be developed. And if all goes right, in the next 14 days, we should have 50 plus awarded territories that will then need to be developed as well. So about 50% development, the other 50% will need to be developed. So we're moving quickly. We are a very strong emerging franchise brand, but it's a super exciting time. We always joke with our team and say that we're in this industry at the right time in history for all this consolidation and this franchise model and all this different stuff to like truly make sense, and technology catch up with construction. So super blessed to be who I am at this point in time in the right industry. And we're super excited to see what the next couple of years look like for us.
Absolutely. And technology is not taking away roofing, plumbing, HVAC, electricians, none of that. It's not going away. It's actually getting bigger and bigger. So I know a lot of people are very concerned about AI and other stuff. I mean, if you are in the line of industry that you are, Carnie, you just have to amplify it, but there's no taking away anything from you guys. I mean, construction is just moving forward, specifically, very, very specific, like roofing, plumbing, HVAC, and all that stuff, right? So without giving your formula away, what is the model that you're implementing right now to get all these franchises, and grow your company so rapidly in all these territories? Without giving your formula away, you can take 50%.
Yeah, no, we're good.
I just want the audience to understand, how is it that you grew your company from 2,500 to now having potentially 50 plus franchises and territories in the United States?
Yeah, it's an unwavering commitment to keep going. It's not easy, man. It's incredibly difficult what we're trying to accomplish here. And with that being said, like it brings its own trials and tribulations. I'm always talking to different people, whether they're internal or external. And the thing that I think is difficult for some people to understand is when you're trying to do something and you're trying to grow an organization, every time that you make an extra dollar in revenue, or you bring on an extra location, or you sell an extra project, it's new. So you're constantly in a state of having to figure it out. If you're going to go from 1 million to 10 million to 10 million to 20 to 20 to 100 to 200 million to 2 billion, you're constantly going to be in a state of trying to figure it out. Just accepting that that's a part of the process, where you can sit here and you can overanalyze all you want, but like, you're never going to know until you start putting one foot in front of the other. And one of the things that I believe has led us to be able to grow faster than most is, and I didn't talk about this a whole lot over the last couple of years with doing podcasts and stuff like that, but I'm starting to get more vocal about it, because I believe that it's an incredibly important concept for people to grasp, which is, I have reinvested every single dollar that I've ever made back into this company. For the first 4 years of us building the construction company, I paid myself $50,000 a year. Think about that. We were doing $14.7 million in revenue as a 26-year-old kid, a young adult. I consider myself to be a kid at that time. And I was only paying myself $50,000. No distributions. I had company truck, fuel, you name it. So I had some little perks there. But to be disciplined enough to not splurge and take care of my personal finances and reinvest all those dollars right back into the organization, it allowed us to grow. It created more opportunity, more jobs, more clerical employees. And that same philosophy in those first 4 years, I brought that right back into the franchise concept. So me and two of my partners that are working on this concept day in and day out, we've been working on it for about 3 years now. We haven't made a penny. Neither of we're not paid. And that's not to like brag. Like, trust me, I'd love to be making money.
I totally get you.
To me, it's one of those necessary things if you want to grow and grow very quickly, because if you're operating in a selfish manner, you're taking money away from the organization that could be reinvested into technology, tools, resources, human capital, which we need that. We need that to support this growth. We need that to support franchisees. We need it to support ourselves, because I'm a single human. There's not 100 of me walking around. So I need to find other people that can do the tasks that we need them to do. So, there is no secret formula that I have, other than be willing to eat shit for a very long time and invest as many dollars that you can back into the organization, because a dollar invested with it's like putting money into a stock and putting money into an investment plan, right? It compounding interest over and over and over again. That's the way that I look at business. And if the more money I take out, the less I can grow, and the speed at which I can grow is reduced. More money I keep in, the faster I can move. So I also think that it's very unique in the sense that it allows us to do things that others can't. So if you're running side by side with a competitor, one is paying themselves $500,000 a year, and the other is paying themselves $50,000 a year and investing in tools, technology, and resources. The guy that's paying themselves $500,000 a year is buying trucks and watches and McLarens. Who do you think's going to win in the long run? Probably the guy that's only paying himself $50,000. So it's not a crazy concept, but it's a hard one to recognize, especially when the money starts coming in and you have to exercise discipline to realize
that's when it gets very difficult. When you see that $500,000 sitting in the bank account, you're like, Italy sounds very nice this time of the year.
Especially when you got snow outside right now in Pennsylvania.
So yeah, I totally get you. And I watched a podcast, I believe a year ago maybe. And I remember that in the podcast they were speaking about Elon Musk. And they were saying for every $1 million that Elon invested into Tesla, he got $900 million in return. Mm-hmm. an absurd amount of money. And that was like a year and a half ago. I don't even imagine what will be today, probably a couple billions for every million that he invested into Tesla, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, look at your company as a stock, right? Like all of us would have loved to invest our money in Apple, Google, Amazon, Tesla in the early days. And that's kind of the way that I look at our business is it is a stock essentially. And the more money that I put into it and keep into it over time, the more that it compounds, the more that it's worth. And the longer I can continue to reinvest into it, the higher the dividends are going to be in the future.
Yeah. And people didn't know how we met each other. We met each other because with my partner, I had a storage deposit facility that you did the roof for. And I remember that one of the reasons why we picked you is because of the branding and the quality that people were saying out there that you had with all your products. So that was going to be my next question, which is, you have positioned yourself as a very strong brand when it comes to roofing, and you put a lot of attention into creating trust, into creating a quality product. How did you come up with this idea of trust and branding so powerful? Because really, we got a lot of quotes when we did a roof in the storage facility. And if I remember correctly, maybe it was like, I don't know, $30,000. I don't remember now how much was it, back in the days when we did that building in 2019, I think it was 2020 or something like that. Right. But you have positioned yourself at such a young age in a very, let's say it's a young company overall still for being in that business, so well positioned in the market.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to if you want it, just take it. There's nobody at the door that says you've only been in business for 4 years, you can't do a $2 million project. So if you want it, just go out and take it and make it yours. But that brand has always been pretty important to us. The one thing that I will tell you is the busier that we've gotten and the more things that we've gotten ourselves into, it's easy. And I try to remind myself of this. It's easy to lose that really quickly, because then once you're making money and things are going well, you're building a team, you tend to focus on other things that you feel require your attention. And then that brand, the social media presence, the stuff that you're doing that helped to get you there, that stuff can kind of get pushed to the wayside. So it's super important to look at that, not just in the short term, but the long term. And a brand is, in my opinion, especially when we're talking about like social media and a digital brand, it's our identity now. Like when you go on the internet and you're looking to find a roofing contractor, siding contractor, whatever it may be, having a good brand and a good presence and that luxe professional feel, having those reviews on your Google business page, all of that stuff plays into the fact that this is a legitimate organization. And for us, the internet is like a validation source. So it's the source of truth in most cases, because information spreads very quickly on the internet. So it's very important, if you're building a company that services customers, that you have a really good presence, like online and digital presence, because whether they meet you and they interact with you and they love you, most people are still going to go on the internet and validate what they think. So they're going to go there and they're going to validate that you're legitimate. They're going to make sure the website checks out. They're going to make sure your services and your offerings check out. They're going to make sure the reviews check out. They're going to see how many negative reviews you have versus positive. They're also going to look at the volume of those reviews. So making sure that your digital footprint is very is bulletproof is super important. And it's something that, like I said, as we've continued to grow, I'm constantly reminding myself and our team that like that stuff is still just as important, if not more important, because information spreads so quickly on the internet. And now you have like ChatGPT and these different AI sources where it's scanning all the different search engines and it's providing a customer with the most viable option for whatever the problem is.
Yes.
So that digital footprint, your brand reputation, everything, it has to be on point right now, because People are using the internet as a validation piece to make sure that they're making the right decision.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk to you about operational growth. And I know that construction is not for the faint of heart. I know how difficult it may be, especially with employees and unforeseens all the time in construction. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced in operational challenges that you have faced that you think have really kept you awake at night?
Everything you can imagine that could go wrong has gone wrong. When you're doing, I mean, our best year at just my location, not system wide, but just my location here in South Central Pennsylvania, our best year in terms of output, we did 973 or 78 projects, which when you eliminate Sundays, you eliminate most Saturdays, and then you also eliminate inclement weather days, because we are in the Northeast of the United States, you're talking about like maybe 200 days to produce that. So we had days where we were doing 10 to 15 projects a day. So if anything could go wrong, you can imagine it did, and it has. But creating a great operating system is why we got into franchising. It's taking old school, tried and true methods, developing technology, whether it be AI or CRM or some type of SaaS type program, and putting it all together to do your best attempt at making a duplicatable and replicatable experience for that customer. So, and then obviously as you navigate growing your organization and growing your business, you figure out where you have deficiencies. If, in my opinion, you're a really crappy business owner if you make a mistake and you want to point blame at the individual that made that mistake, instead of like looking inward and saying, okay, yeah, they made a mistake. We might think that they're idiots for doing that, but where did we fail as an organization, or where did our operating system fail that led that person to believe that that was the right thing to do, or led them to make that mistake? So if you're not constantly looking inward and holding yourself in the operating system accountable for the mistakes that people make, I think you're going to be a terrible operator long term. So you have to understand that when you're building a business and building an operating system, that you're building it for the average person. I love every single one of our employees, our strategic partners, the 100+ people that help us to do what we do. But the reality of it is, Sergio, me and you are going to hire much more average people than we are just absolute superstars. We'd love to have all the superstars in the world, but knowing that the statistics are not in our favor, that means that, in my opinion, we have to build an operating system that takes an average employee and makes them an above average employee. So leveraging technology, AI, a bulletproof CRM system, making sure you have all your SOPs dialed in, and making sure you're following up on these guys and training them and managing them properly, and demanding the results that you're looking for at your organization for that specific job role and function. All of that stuff is crucial. But you have to make sure that you're looking inward instead of just placing blame on the person or the people that made those mistakes. And if you do that, and you can have an unbiased mind when you do it, you can develop that operating system and make something pretty special over time.
Do you self-teach all of this about how to manage a CRM, SEO, presence, branding, or do you have a mentor, or did you take courses? How did that happen? You said you didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. And you and I are very similar in that. And I know how difficult SEO can be. I know how difficult building and setting up a CRM can be. So I'm just curious, how do you learn this?
Yeah, a lot of it is just being a student, and I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that question. That's a good question. I have what I would consider like mentors, but they're not paid. They're just people that we work with that,
you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I did this and that.
Everybody's a mentor to me, right? Even our own employees can be mentors in some regard, because there's a pretty high probability, Sergio. I have an idea of how many people you have at your org. I'm sure there's people at your organization that can teach you things that you didn't even know.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Well, they all teach me things.
Right? So,
and a lot of them are smarter than me.
Right.
They just,
with that being said, then you're able to learn from everybody. So if you're a student of knowledge, then you can get it anywhere. You can get it from a book, you can get it from your people, you can get it from the people that you do business with. And asking questions and asking the right questions, in my opinion, is what leads to like discovery, where you start to discover, okay, this is why this works, this is why that works. And one of the things that has helped me a lot in the last 2 or 3 years has been me diving into not the feeling of knowing that I have to like understand every minute detail, but like I want to understand enough about marketing that I can lead. I want to understand enough about the operating system that I can strategically think about ways that a change could potentially negatively impact the system, right? So that's been something that I've really focused a lot of my time on here recently. Is I know that I can't know everything, but I want to know enough about the different parts of our business that are important. Financials are important, marketing is important, sales is important, and operations is important, right? As long as I understand enough about them that I can use the critical thinking part of my brain to say, okay, I know you guys are going this way and you think this is the right thing to do, but have you thought about X, Y, Z, right?
Right.
How I got there is just continuing to try and get better and understanding that like there's always something to be learned every single day. And the second that you think you know it all, you're going to get your ass beat in business. So
tell me about it.
Yeah, in a very long-winded way.
The way I did it is that I just like you, I tried to learn as much as I could, read a lot, but then I put people that know more about it than me. And like you said, just use my critical thinking and hey, can we tweak it here a little bit? Because I know that SEO and marketing per se is that difference between having a very successful company or not. Because you're not going to do door knocking. Hey, can I do your roof? You know, you're not going to send flyers. It's having that online presence. And when you see your competitors and you see what they're doing, you know that's not going to work. But then you do it correctly. There's a huge difference between what you have correctly out there versus what your competitors have. And then the curve of growth for your company that is doing your online presence correctly just start skyrocketing immediately, right? I know a lot of people that are operators are very barbaric in the way they put their content out there. And that, I mean, they get some business, but then they're not going to grow much, right? Just not. And there's a difference between looking very professional or not. And then if you want your roof done, if you want your HVAC done and you go online, chances are you're going to pick the one that looks very professional and real, right? Just the way it is. Do you have any non-negotiables in your company? Something that you can say, hey, you know, I will fire anyone for this, or I will coach you for this mistake. A non-negotiable is stealing. That I think that's a non-negotiable. Well, that's a big, huge non-negotiable.
No, that's a pretty obvious thing. But no, I mean we So here's the thing: is if it was an honest mistake and somebody made an honest mistake and they are willing to accept that they made that mistake and we can acknowledge it and we can improve to make sure that doesn't happen again, and then this person can learn from that. And let's say it costs $5,000. Well, for me to find somebody to replace that person is probably going to cost me more than $5,000. So does it make sense every time somebody makes a mistake, if there's a financial burden attached to it, you terminate them immediately? I think that's foolish. So if that individual makes a mistake, they can recognize that they made a mistake. We can figure out how to keep it from happening again from an operating perspective. then I'm okay with it. Let's keep going. The reason that I know a lot of things that I know is because I fucked up so much. Like I've made a lot of mistakes. I've spent a lot of money on silly, foolish things that did not yield a positive return. But I wouldn't have known any better if I didn't attempt to spend money there, right? So, I would say the non-negotiable is like if you're not coachable and you can't take ownership over the things that you're doing, like I can't have you. I don't want you. I would imagine you're the same in your business, Sergio. Is like if I can coach you,
non-coachable is a non-negotiable for me too. I mean, if I use the GWC, they get it, they want it, and they're capable of doing it. But overall, in that formula, they need to be coachable because they may not fully get it, but if they're coachable, they will end up getting it, and they of course they have to want it. And capable, I mean, not everyone is 100% capable of doing what they need to do. I mean, there's going to have to be some room for improvement and for coaching them and teaching them, how to do certain things. Right now, the lady that is running my flipping company, she doesn't know jack about flipping houses. Like it's almost zero. I taught her everything from the ground up. And I always say this in a lot of my podcast episodes that I taught her how to flip houses from the ground up, but she got it and she wanted it. Was she capable of it? Turned out she was. I mean, she probably didn't have the knowledge, but she was very capable of doing it, right? So for me, it's the same. So this section of the podcast, I call it rapid fire rounds or rapid fire questions. Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple of those. A book that changed the way you lead, or a book that changed the way you think. Let's put it that way.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that book when I was 21 years old, and that was the light bulb moment that made me realize I got one life and I want to do something special with it.
Awesome. The proudest CEO moment you had so far?
Helping my dad to retire. So when I left my father's business, he came over and started helping me, and I gave him a way to make money without having a tool belt on as a salesperson. He made more money selling roofs than he did running his own construction company with a tool belt and a hammer in his hand. So that was a pretty proud moment. And then Dad just retired. We just threw a Christmas party here last week, and we gave him a gift, and that was his retirement gift. So that's for me, my parents.
How old is your father?
He's still young, 56, I think.
Awesome time to retire.
Yeah, exactly. He's still I wish I could retire.
He's living his life, man. Favorite technology that powers your business?
No questions asked. Not even remote. Well, I don't know. Two things. One would be aerial imagery. So like the ability to measure roofs and siding systems from the sky. Right. And then
like Eagle View, similar to Eagle View, right?
That's one of our main partners, yes. And then very neck and neck with that. I'd say it probably excels beyond that would be our CRM provider, which is not even like CRM is like kind of an outdated word. This is a full business solution where we run our entire operating system through it.
Awesome. What do you think is the biggest myth about running a business?
That it's glorious. And that you can make, most people that run a business make less money than your average employee. So if you're in it for money, especially short term, you're not going to enjoy this very much. But if you enjoy the process, if you enjoy helping people, if you enjoy improving people's lives, it's the best game that's ever existed. But if you think you're going to be a CEO or a president or an owner and put that next to your business card, you're magically going to start printing money. It's not how it works.
Yeah, I wish. I lost money for 3 years straight with one of my companies, and then the company became a cash cow.
Yeah.
After 3 years of bleeding cash, I'm sure 99% of people would have quit. Yeah. It's not that easy. And when you see 70,000, 50,000 every month,
what's funny is you have to be a little bit mental to stay there and continue to do it with the belief that it's all going to work out.
Yeah, yes. Because I mean, if you're losing money every month for 3 years straight, and it's not a little bit of money, you're talking about 50, 100, 40, 60. I mean, if you add up, that's $500,000, $700,000 a year.
1.5 million
of money that has just been burned out, right? that hurts. I mean, you really second guess, triple guess everything you're doing when you're losing that kind of money, right? So it's really not for the weak.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be super strong. So, all right, cool. Now I call this clip-worthy hooks. You don't build a company, you build people, and they build a company. What do you think about that?
That's everything. If you try to do everything yourself, you're going to become a slave to your own organization. So you have to bring in some great people. Our team that we have now is the best I've ever seen, and I would put us up against anybody. But that doesn't happen by accident. So you have to lead from the front. You have to lead by example. You have to show these people that there's a real opportunity here for them and their family. And then you have to give them some control and some ownership over what they're doing, because if you try to micromanage them, they're going to get the shits of it and they're going to leave. But you can't do it by yourself. And if you try to, you'll struggle for an indefinite amount of time.
Awesome. The next one is companies that are built to last underperform the market. So what do you think about that? And I know you're very young, but are you planning a succession in the future? Meaning, if you want to go to your next big project, do you going to have anyone? Are you planning in the future to have someone run the company that you built?
So that's something that I play with in my mind from time to time. I think every entrepreneur, every founder, if they're good, will kind of ask themselves this question, which is, how far can I take the organization myself? And will I always be the CEO, or will I always be the right person to continue to lead us? And I don't know if or when that will ever come in my career, but it's something that I think about from time to time. Is if I reach a point where I am no longer in my current position of immense value to the organization, then we need to find, I owe it to my people. I owe it to our franchisees. I owe it to everybody around us to source somebody who can do it better than me. And that's something that most people probably would hate to admit about themselves. And I don't know if that's me or not, right? But I hope that
it's my baby.
Yeah,
I don't want to give my baby away, even if that means losing money.
I hope that if that day ever comes, I'm smart enough to recognize when that moment hits. And my ego is not in the way of making the right business decision.
Awesome. I have the $1 million question. Now, I know this one is going to be easy for you because you said you started with almost no money. But if you had to start again with no money, no contacts, well, in this case, you have the contacts, and no reputation of your own, but the same mindset, what would you do in the first 60 days to start a new company?
I do exactly what I did back in the day. That's why it's easy for me to answer. I mean, put your head down and work. If you have a spouse, kiss them and say, I'll see you in 60 days. Like, go, just get to work, man. Understanding that, like, you're not going to have what I hate to see is really good entrepreneurs that suffer from analysis paralysis, where they overanalyze everything, that they then just become paralyzed and they don't do anything. And everything has to be perfect for them. Life isn't perfect. Business isn't perfect. So just get out and just do it. Do the work, put in the work every single day, and continue to improve and advance yourself in the marketplace daily. And if you do that over time, it compounds, and sooner or later you wake up and you're winning. But 60 days is a super short period of time. So if you think your life's going to change in 60 days, you're signing up for something. But just work, reinvest every dollar that you make, and continue to do that, in my opinion, for not just 60 days, but for the next 3 to 5 years, until you can start to bear the fruits of your labor.
Absolutely. And as you know, I have a virtual assistant company, so I need to ask this all the time. What do you think about virtual assistants, outsourcing? How has that helped your company? in any way, shape, or form? And would you recommend to colleagues, friends, or other business owners to hire VAs to help their company grow in a much leaner way?
Yeah. So right now we have 3 full-time virtual assistants, and I love them. I mean, these guys are rock stars, man. They work so fast, and some of them are so smart. Like our one VA that we have with you, Sergio, we all will admit he's the smartest guy at our work right now. So
Oh yeah, he's very smart. I know him personally.
yeah. I think he's got like a degree in artificial intelligence. He's nasty. So the speed at which these people move, obviously honestly, leave the money out of it. The fact that you can get really talented labor for a little bit less than what it costs in the United States, like leave that out of it. Knowing what I know now, I don't charge me more, Sergio, but I'd pay the same rate that we pay in the United States because of the performance is just so much higher. The output that we get and the
well, it's different because, and sorry to interrupt you, Carnie, but so when you have a virtual assistant that is making X amount of dollars, right? That X amount of dollars is double or triple what they would make in their country. Mm-hmm. Versus if you have that person in the United States, that X amount of dollars, right? They'll get it everywhere, right? So the motivation is just not there.
Right.
I mean, for a virtual assistant, if they're very talented, they're going to give their 300% because they're making good money. And when people say, oh, they're not making that much money, it's like, you don't know what you're talking about, because it's all about quality of life and how far your dollars go. If you can get the same quality of life for half the price, and that's why people move to Costa Rica and Colombia, and you see all these expats going, like, they call it now nomads. They go to and work remotely in other countries, from Canada, UK, France, United States. They go and live in Costa Rica. It's like their dollars go much, much further than if they were in the United States. And that's what it is. It doesn't really matter if they make less money. Their quality of life is better.
No, we've had super positive experience, and the only regret that I have is that I didn't do it sooner, because this, for me, it almost feels like a cheat code, and I couldn't, like, if I had to start over tomorrow with the knowledge that I had, there is no doubt in my mind that I would leverage virtual assistants like crazy. Because all of those administrative tasks, all of the stuff that either costs too much money in the United States, like we have a full-time tech and IT guy with you guys, and like that's to afford that in the United States, it'd be so hard for me to do it. But it's an easy decision when it's outsourced, because it doesn't have that much of an economical impact on us, to the point that like we can or can't make this decision because we got to be able to make payroll. Like it's not something that we're worried about. So it allows us to expand and grow our organization so much faster, because for one in-house employee in the United States, I can potentially get 2 or 3 virtual assistants that can help to support me and my growth and our strategic partners' growth. And it just allows us to move so much faster. And the one thing that I don't look at it this way, but it is a nice thing to kind of like shield yourself as a business owner from. A lot of business owners tend to hold on to people for far too long. Underperformers, that would be, because they have an emotional connection with them. They know their kids.
It's all about hearts,
and
usually.
That's the good thing, is that makes you human. So like, congratulations, you're not a dick. But the bad news is it makes you an ineffective business owner. So with that being said, when you have virtual assistants, if they are underperforming, it's not as much of an emotional thing, because you can say, hey, like we care. We're talking about putting one of ours on a flight and sending them to the retreat. Like we care about these people. So I don't want people to get that misconstrued, but it's a little bit easier to get rid of an underperformer and then replace them with another high performing individual and just say, hey, unfortunately it's not working out. We're going a different direction. And it not be this high anxiety thing where you end up holding on to somebody for 3 or 4 years longer than you should have, where you can make smart business decisions, make sure that you're getting the results that you need, and then with a lot of these firms, you guys included, Sergio, the fact that they're documenting almost everything that they do in the form of like an SOP. If something happens, you hire a female and she gets pregnant or whatever it may be, and she's on maternity leave, or maybe we got to terminate for whatever reason, then at least we know that, hey, in 2 weeks, somebody can kind of pick up the pieces and everything has been documented nice and neat for us so that we don't have to worry at night about something happening to a key employee. So super positive experience. The only negative the only thing that I regret is that I didn't do it sooner.
And for the business owners out there, you're not the March of Dime. You're not a nonprofit organization. If you need to fire someone, you better do it quickly. And I help my clients fire their people when they're underperforming because, again, you're not a nonprofit. You are for profit. You are for performance. You are for efficiency. So I usually tell my clients, hey, I've seen that your VA is lacking here and there. We need to talk to them or to her or to him. And if things don't improve after an action plan, I think you have to let that person go. And there's sometimes they find me like, oh, but she's so nice. I'm like, I get it. Yeah. But if I'm not going to push you, I'm not going to force my hand. But if you decide to keep the person, then don't come back to me and complain later that,
right.
Oh, it's underperforming, isn't that right? You know how it is. To all of the listeners out there, the ones that are listening, the ones that are watching us, it's probably going to be somewhere around 50 to 100,000 people. Do you have any final message for them?
Yeah, if you're in business and you're second guessing yourself, understand that that's natural. I think everybody second guesses themselves and questions the validity of what they're doing in terms of like, is this all going to work out? Am I the right person? We as founders and as entrepreneurs, you're constantly questioning yourself, and just have a little bit of faith in yourself. The one thing that I'm still trying to practice this that I wish I would have done when I was younger is just enjoy the process a little bit more. I basically worked all throughout my mid to high 20s and now early 30s to where like I didn't really have much of a life outside of work. Like I still had fun and we traveled and did stuff like that, but I'm trying to enjoy it a little bit more. And this is my second go around with building a company. So I think I'm more aware that like, you don't need to, like, stress is real. You need stress. We always say pressure makes diamonds, but like, enjoy the process, understand that it's going to take time, understand that you're playing a game against yourself. And you don't want to live with any regrets. So just put your head down, keep working, enjoy the process as much as you possibly can in that moment. And don't take any of it for granted, because I spent 5 or 6 years of my life just focusing on the business and never really appreciated it as much as I do now. And I wish if I could go back in time that I would just kind of appreciate the process a little bit more. But I was just so focused on getting it to a certain point that it was hard to appreciate it. But knowing what I know now, it's just time is part of the process, and you just trying to force your way through. It's not going to change the inevitable. And just be excited, be happy, and enjoy your time a little bit more than just being a stress ball all the time.
Have you heard the phrase, enjoy yourself, it's later than you think?
Enjoy yourself, it's later than you think? No, I haven't. I like it though.
Meaning you never know when it's going to be the last day.
Yeah.
So you're saying enjoy the process. It's later than you think it is. Sometimes, I have another 20 years.
You don't know.
Fucking know. You have 20 years. You don't know. So it's a good message to enjoy the process as much as you can, because you never know. Mm-hmm. You never know. So congratulations on your success, Carnie. Thank you for being a client. Thank you for trusting us. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Carnie, thank you for bringing your story, your leadership perspective, and your passion to today's episode. You built something powerful, not just in business, but an impact. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us and cracking the code. If this conversation gave you an insight or inspiration, make sure to follow, like, share, and drop a comment. Until next time, lead boldly, build with vision, and let's keep cracking the code.